Hello again, Kamen Rider here with an actual video this time. Today we are looking at a top 10 video called 8 Times Nintendo Ripped Off Xbox. Afraid to inform the misinformed? Let's get into it.
Nintendo are known as the innovators of the video game industry. They're always the first to try new things and are constantly getting ripped off by other companies like Sony and Microsoft.
How is Microsoft copying Nintendo? Like, I get how people used to say the PlayStation Move was a rip-off, and PlayStation All-Stars was a thing, but what did Xbox rip off?
Or are they? It turns out Nintendo aren't perfect either and have taken a page out of Microsoft's book on multiple occasions. Before we begin, hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with The Gamer and ring that bell to become a part of our notification squad so you never miss a video. No! Without further ado, here are sometimes Nintendo ripped off Xbox. Switch Pro Controller. The Nintendo Switch Pro Controller is incredible. The build quality is tremendous, and the battery seemingly never dies. We've played with the controller for weeks on end before we needed to charge it. It's that good.
If you have a problem with the Switch Pro Controller, why would you compliment it so much? If you're making a video testing something, you shouldn't compliment it so much.
While that's all fine and dandy, there's something odd about the controller, its button layout. It reminds us of another controller we use nearly every day on a console known as the Xbox One, created by Microsoft.
Firstly, I never owned an Xbox, so you're wrong there. Secondly, the reason the button layout is the way it is because it's supposed to match the button layout of the Joy-Cons. As a result, it looks very similar to the Xbox controller, but this is most likely a coincidence, as you can only customize a controller so much before it becomes bothersome to use.
Of course, its button layout is exactly like the Xbox One controllers.
The face buttons are in different positions, added home button and screenshot button, and the L and R triggers are at different heights. And that's just to name a few differences.
Come on, Nintendo! We thought you were innovative, yet you blatantly rip off the Xbox One controller? How dare you!
If it was so blatant, then why did I just point out 3 differences between the 2 controllers? Better question, if it was so blatant, then why did you have to spell it out for us?
At least Nintendo had the decency to switch the order of the buttons. A and B were swapped, and Y and X were swapped, but still.
But still what? You just countered your own argument. And again, that's not the only difference.
We expected more from you, Nintendo.
You seem like the kind of person who unironically uses reaction GIFs and Twitter arguments.
HD gaming.
Are you retarded?
While 4K gaming is all the rage today, there was a time where 720p and 1080p HD gaming was the up-and-coming thing. It was during the transition from 6th generation to 7th generation consoles. This was when Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft were making sure their consoles were ready for the new HD market of gaming. The Xbox 360 was released a year before the PS3 and Wii, and featured an HDMI port.
Wait, are you trying to say that Nintendo ripped off HDMI? How stupid can you be? HDMI is a type of connector, not just gaming consoles use it. Hell, my fucking laptop has an HDMI. So is my laptop ripping off Xbox? What about USB? Is Nintendo ripping off computers because they have USB too?
Microsoft won the race, so when Sony and Nintendo inevitably joined the HD gaming crew, they technically ripped off Microsoft. That's just how the video game industry works. You always want to be first.
Pretty sure that isn't limited to video games.
And sadly, Nintendo weren't this time. When Nintendo finally joins the 4K market, they'll technically be ripping off Sony.
No, they fucking won't. You can't copyright a video quality. That's stupid.
Trust us, we know a thing or two about ripoffs.
Wrong.
Paid online service. When it comes to online services, we have Xbox Live, the PlayStation Network, and soon, Nintendo Switch Online.
Last time I checked, you can't copyright that concept. By that logic, Xbox is ripping off AOL. Also, this isn't even Nintendo's first paid online service. Their first paid online service was the Satellaview for the Super Famicom. Now I hear you saying,
What does it tell you? Was Japan only? People in the West wouldn't know about it.
Which is true, but when making an informative video, like a top 10, you need to have a good amount of knowledge on something in order to make a statement about it. Also, there was a paid online service that did come to the SNES, the X-Band. Granted, it wasn't made by Nintendo, and the Genesis had it too, but Nintendo licensed it, so it still counts.
Xbox Live always required a subscription to play, and in the Xbox 360 days was light years ahead of PSN's free online service. PSN is now also subscription-based, but it's not quite up to snuff with Xbox Live. There's that meme about PSN always being down, but it's not true.
I think you misunderstood. The meme relating to PSN being down relates to that hacking that happened years ago.
PlayStation gamers are just unable to crossplay.
That's more or less true nowadays. Yes, the PlayStation was reluctant to crossplay, but nowadays it seems like crossplaying is becoming more of a thing on the system. Fortnite allows crossplaying from all different systems, and Minecraft Bedrock was just introduced to the PS4. So I think PlayStation does have a future with crossplay.
Which is why you never think they're online. With all these subscription-based online services going around,
You mean like 3?
Nintendo decided to join the party, but at a much cheaper price. Nintendo Switch Online will only set you back around $20, while Xbox Live Gold and PS Plus will each cost you $60 a year. It's one hell of a bargain, but Microsoft did it first. So Nintendo ripped them off again.
That's not how rip-offs work. You can't rip off a concept like that. And again, it's Nintendo that did it first.
Disc-based games.
I'm not playing the Pyrocynical clip again.
Since the original Xbox, Microsoft consoles have always been disc-based. Either you download the game online straight to the console, or you buy physical discs to play them. There's no other alternative. Nintendo, on the other hand, have always loved their cartridges. In fact, the dispute over cartridges and discs led them to cancel the Nintendo PlayStation, allowing Sony to do their own thing, and look where they are now.
So you know about the Nintendo PlayStation, but not the Satellaview? Where the fuck did you get this info?
Nintendo was using cartridges from the NES all the way until the GameCube. The GameCube had these weird mini discs that were absolutely adorable. You know what disc-based console came out 3 days before the Nintendo GameCube? The Xbox.
3 days. It's a 3-day difference. Also, you mentioned earlier that the PlayStation used discs before both of them, right? So by your logic, Xbox ripped off Sony.
Since it came out first, Nintendo totally ripped them off. Nintendo even went back to cartridges for the Switch because they obviously couldn't live with the shame.
It was not because of the shame, it's because of the Nintendo Switch's console hybrid capabilities. They need to use cartridges in order to have the games physically fit inside there. Are cartridges a bit primitive? Yes. But they are necessary for one of the Nintendo Switch's main functions.
Shame. Shame. Friends list.
Oh, for fuck's sake. The Wii U had a friends list, for God's sake. And again, Xbox doesn't own the copyright to the concept of the friends list.
While adding friends is a pretty tedious and pointless part of online gaming,
You're a fucking asshole.
the fact remains that there's no real better alternative to find out who's online and what game they're playing. This ain't like adding friends on Facebook, that's for sure. The friends list was first created by Microsoft for the Xbox 360 that launched a year earlier than the PS3 and Wii.
You think the Xbox invented the friends list? No! That's a concept that existed even before the internet! You're fucking crazy!
It revolutionized the world of online gaming by allowing you to send hate mail to anyone who 360 no-scoped you in Modern Warfare.
Wow, you really are an asshole.
It was the future. But it took Nintendo 12 years to finally design their own friends list on the Nintendo Switch.
Again, it was the Wii U, not the Switch.
Previously, you had a different friend code for every single game you owned. We have no idea what Nintendo were thinking. Now, you just have one friend code, and that's it. Talk about innovative.
While I do agree that Nintendo is stupid for that, Nintendo's business model doesn't involve following the norm, but rather doing their own thing. That's what makes them so innovative. Does it set them a couple years back? Yes, but it lets them go at their own pace and introduce new concepts to the world of gaming.
Wii U Pro Controller. That's right, Nintendo didn't just rip off the Xbox One controller. Oh no, their Wii U Pro Controller is a blatant rip-off of the Xbox 360 controller.
Watch me debunk what he says real fucking quick.
I'm gonna do what's called a pro gamer move.
For starters, look at the shape of each controller.
Wow, and just like that, the Wii U Pro Controller looks even less like the Xbox controller. And this matches what I said before. The Switch Pro Controller looks the way it does because the button layout loosely matches the Joy-Con button layout, and the Wii U Pro Controller looks the way it does because the buttons loosely match those on the Wii U gamepad.
It's a splitting image. Sure, the right analog stick of the Wii U Pro Controller is placed higher than the Xbox 360 controllers for some reason, which we would think is really uncomfortable, but it's ridiculous. What really stands out are the triggers. There are two on each side, and the design is very similar to the Xbox 360 controller's triggers. Now, we know most controllers all follow the same template. They each have analog sticks, triggers, face buttons, and grips, but this is really similar.
I like how the only examples you showed were PlayStation controllers and the Nintendo 64 controller. You know, the controller no one knows how to hold.
Come on, those copycats at Nintendo could have put a bit more effort into it.
I've said this before and I'll say it again. You can only customize the controller so much before it becomes bothersome to use.
Alternate, mixed, and virtual reality.
Last time I checked, the PlayStation is known for console VR. And even then, they don't own the copyright to the concept of VR. Not to mention, Nintendo did it before the PlayStation did. Remember the Virtual Boy? Now, I hear you saying,
But the Virtual Boy isn't even real VR. Also, it was a massive failure.
and while that is true, it pretty much counts. At the time, VR was still considered future tech that wouldn't be a thing for thousands of years outside of adapted tokusatsu. Seriously, why do people not like this show?
There's going to come a time when Nintendo dives into the world of AR, MR, and VR. In a time where real reality known as RR is getting boring, we all have these other kinds of realities to make us forget about the harsh, cruel world beyond those doors. It all started with PlayStation VR that seemed like a gimmick at first, but later surprised everyone with its solid performance and library of games.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but PSVR was never just a gimmick.
Microsoft then copied this by developing the mixed reality peripheral known as the HoloLens.
They aren't ripping off anything. PlayStation doesn't have the copyright to VR. No one does. Plus, that's AR, not VR. It's completely different.
In essence, the HoloLens creates a hologram that expands beyond the screen, allowing you to see more of the game and be more immersed in the experience. So when Nintendo joins the party, they'll be ripping off Microsoft, who ripped off Sony. Yeah, that totally makes sense.
I hate how I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not. Nintendo's Labo VR isn't ripping off anything. VR is a medium. No one owns the exclusive rights to VR.
Games streaming service. Streaming services are everywhere. Almost anything can be streamed now, from shows, movies, and sports. So why not add video games to the mix as well? It all started with PlayStation Now, and today we also have the Xbox One Game Pass and the Nvidia GeForce Now.
Except those services don't even compare to Nintendo's game streaming services. Xbox Game Pass and PS Now are made to play recent games, but Nintendo's streaming services, the NES Classic Collection and SNES Classic Collection, are made for retro games.
While PlayStation and Xbox are fighting to become the better Netflix of video games, Nintendo is developing a game streaming service of their own. It's safe to say that, compared to the disaster that was the Wii U, the Switch has been a global hit. Things might even get better for the console, since it was able to play the PC, PS4, and Xbox hit Resident Evil 7 using the cloud. Now, the Biohazard Cloud version was solely released by Capcom in Japan, but the pay-to-play streaming service might be the way of the future.
So, who wants to tell him? Well, that about does it. I'm glad to finally release a normal video that isn't just a big PSA. Remember to like and subscribe for future videos. If you want more, you can follow my Instagram, watch my DeviantArt. If you want to support the channel, you can donate to my Patreon. And I finally got a new Discord server. Link will be in the description. And until next time, goodbye.
Oh, f*** a door!